a few minutes of your time, a few minutes. I want to start by asking a question I ask my students, I ask my neighbors, I ask a lot of people because I think it's indicative of something that connects this conference and imperialism with how we want to help working families. How many foreign bases does the Russian Federation have? Any thoughts?
0, maybe 1.
I think 1.
1? Okay. Any other thoughts?
5.
8-ish. 9. Depends on what you count. Okay. How many foreign bases does the People's Republic of China have? 1. How many bases does the United States of America have?
100 million.
About 1,000, right? So I go to my students and I say, "Whoa, wait a minute," because they come to class. They say, "Mr. Helali, Russia is the enemy." I said, "Okay, Russia's the enemy. How many foreign bases do they have? How many do we have? Who's the real enemy? Who's the real enemy?" I think this is indicative of something that we as CPI, as Peace USA, as the various parties and movement organizations and think tanks, this is something that we have to harness and we have to work on with the people out there. That is, we have to approach the people not by saying, "Have you read Capital 1, 2, and 3? It doesn't help. You have to hit them with the facts. And you have to hit them with the facts that hit where? That hit their wallet and their pocketbook, that affect their families, that affect their living situations, that affect their work, that affect the overall atmosphere of the country, right? If you ask them, how much is the military budget? And people say, I don't know, a couple billion. A couple billion? Keep going up. 10 billion, keep going up. We're talking about over $750, $800 billion. Billion dollars. What do you think that money could do for working families? So when I ran for Congress, I didn't emphasize the fact that I have a master's in Marxist philosophy, or that I've read the classics, or that let's talk about Kant and Hegel and Marx's dissertation on ancient Greek philosophers duking it out on natural science. No, we're talking about what affects working families. And ultimately, that the system of imperialism affects us all. It affects us all. Because it takes the wealth from us, and it gives it to the elite, to the ruling class, who use it to kill poor black and brown people all over the world. Poor Ukrainian people who are now sacrificial lambs to Langley and to Washington and to London and to Brussels and to Geneva and Vienna and Luxembourg. Those people don't give a shit. Pardon my French. They don't give a shit about it.
Woo! Preach it, Chris!
If you talk to working class people rationally, forget about the ideology for a second. You first have to make an initial step. What's going on? What's happening here? More often than not, people will agree with you. They'll say, yeah, I don't think it's right. Our cities are falling apart. The Republican Party always states, we are the party of family values. No. Communists are the party of family values.
That's right.
When you talk to them and you talk about patriotism, and they sound patriotic, I said, you're patriotic. You like all those foreign military bases. You like becoming the empire that you defeated in the 1700s, right? You've taken the place of Great Britain. You've become the British Empire. Good for you. But if you say, I'm patriotic because I want to see the people in this country have education, healthcare, childcare, have a decent standard of living, wouldn't you want your communities to have dignity? To be able to be out there where people are less burdened by the stress and anxiety and depression of capitalism and can enjoy a fruitful life?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that reduce crime? Wouldn't that help overall people's well-being? Wouldn't families be happier? That's the kind of family values we're talking about. That's the kind of society we want to build. Am I right? I think one of the failures of the broad movement is that on one side, you have people who just take to the streets. Streets are good, but real relationships are important. Being in your communities, being there and building roots, right? And take it from somebody who's traveled a lot. Now that I have roots somewhere for many years, the relationships are deep and people put their trust in you. When you say, let's do this political program in the town, in the state, in the country, people listen. People say, I see how you are. I see how you work with your family. I see how you work on your farm. I see how you teach our kids at school. That's how you earn their trust. That's how you do it. That's how the old party did it, and that's how we need to do it. It's good to be on the streets, no doubt, but the streets are not everything. You have to build relationships with working people. You have to go to them because if we don't go to them, we know who will go to them. Right? We know who's there. Don't think that Chris here is in rural Vermont and there are others in rural Vermont working. We see them. We see their license plates and their bumper stickers and their flags on the front yard. But we maintain a presence. We say, you might be here, but we're here too. And we don't hide. That's another thing. Don't hide. Be open with who you are. Because that shows people that you have character. That you have... People sometimes say to me, oh, communist, shh, don't say it too loud. Why not? What's wrong with it? These fascists can walk around and have, in some parts of Vermont, we see the Azov battalion flag. I was telling some of you in Barrie, I saw a house with the Azov battalion flag with the black sun behind it. How come they can have that? I have the red banner. I want the red banner outside. I want people to know that in this house, in this community, we believe that what happened in 1945 was just, was progressive, and needs to continue. When the special military operation started, I published an article in Vermont Digger, which is an important news source in Vermont. And I went through the history. And I got some hate mail. But with that hate mail, what did I respond with? Sources. Go watch Oliver Stone's documentary. Go check out The Gray Zone.
Love
Go check out Midwest News.
Love it.
Go check out these sources. Open your mind. Right? It was so bad that NPR had a VPR, our local NPR station, was going to do a day about Ukraine. And I was the only candidate in the 2020 election that not only spoke about what was going on in Ukraine, because at that time it was, nobody said anything, right? Because, people are dying in Donetsk and Lugansk, who gives a shit, right? I was the only person in the United States who on their website said what? Recognize the republics of Lugansk and Donetsk. And today, they are free and sovereign republics. When the VPR journalists reached out to me and we went back and forth, at the last minute, they canceled my appearance on VPR. I wonder why. I don't know. When everybody was having the lapel pins and the flags and the ceremonies and this and that, on my office bulletin board, I put an article I wrote for CGTN about the history of what NATO was doing in the region. And I left it there, and a couple students took it down, read it, and then said, Mr. Helali is a conspiracy theorist. Mr. Helali is like, he likes Putin, he's a Kremlin stooge. I said, but he's right. That's the problem. The facts are there, right? The facts are indisputable, right? One of the main things that we have to do today that I think is so important for working families is we have to make people realize that the enemies are not Russia, are not China, but the enemies are the elites and the ruling class in this country. Those are the real enemies. And those are the enemies that people have to realize are not the producers of jobs, of innovation. They are the parasites that take all of the labor and all of the inventions of the workers and take it as their own, and then have a nice space ride, like Bezos and Elon Musk and the rest of the gang, which is, we're going to go to space for a couple minutes and then come down. That's what they do with the wealth and innovation of this country. Working class people are not stupid and they're not dumb. They are very smart. They know what's going on. The problem is they need a little bit more in terms of shepherding them towards a right political project, right? Towards a correct path. The political project that we are trying to do in unison, and that's really important here, the unity of the various political projects here on certain key issues. And I think that that is what Twitter tries to destroy, but don't listen to it. It's all there. It's a psyop. It's meant to stabilize your mind. Once you get to the real world and you talk to real people, they don't know any of the stuff going on Twitter. It's all in our ecosphere, so it's all in our heads. And so we're sitting around all day wondering, what did this person say about that person? What is this group saying about that group? And the worker's just like, I'm getting fucked every day. That is really important is if you look at the data, I like data, I'm a scientific kind of guy. Gloria Lariva, who I admire greatly, in Vermont in 2020 received around 100 to 300 votes statewide. I received almost 4,000. The reason is a difference of tactics. Instead of focusing on the culture war issues, which I believe are put there on purpose to further divide the class struggle, I focus on the class struggle. So for example, if a politician ends up going up there and starts talking about XYZ issue, trans this, abortion that, I say, how much money did you give to the Pentagon this year?
That's right. Preach it, Chris.
You have to flip the script. You have to take the tactics that are used by some other political operatives in this country very effectively over the past few decades. We have to incorporate them into our movement. Who cares if we answer the question? No need to always answer the question. Attack them where they are.
Woo.
Attack them where they are.
Woo.
The situation today is so dangerous. It's like the sword of Damocles over us. Nuclear annihilation is just around the corner. And it might not even be on purpose. It could be a mistake. All of these nuclear weapons, tens of thousands of them, some wire might trip. Who knows? The thing we must do is, if we love the people, if we love our home, if we love our families, if we love our planet, we have to fight to build a better world. And that means daring to struggle, daring to win, going out there, talking to people, organizing in our communities, and not being afraid about it.
Woo.
Not being afraid. In closing, I want to emphasize that imperialism today is the main force that we must fight against.
That's right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that split the movement. but imperialism must bind us. And the anti-imperialist movement must guide us. And whether we disagree with some countries, be it in the axis of resistance, be it Russia, be it the People's Republic of China, be it Cuba, be it Venezuela, be it Nicaragua, be it Bolivia, regardless of our minor political differences of whether they're following Marxism-Leninism purely and correctly, and whether they're following this theory to the T, we must stand with them against US imperialism. And I implore you to continue to struggle until the liberation of all people and the building of a socialist America. Thank you.
Yeah, Chris!